For 30 years, I've claimed to be a Bjork fan. And I loved Post, her second album from 1995, and the remix album Telegram. And that was it until 2020 when I bought her Greatest Hits. Again, I had been familiar with a few singles like Human Behavior, Venus as a Boy from her debut album, and listened to the Greatest Hits, and I loved it. It was great. But I started thinking, am I even a fan if I'm only liking really one studio album and one Greatest Hits? And the Greatest Hits, by the way, only went up to her first 4 albums. So I think, I'm going to be honest, I think a big reason why I claim to be a big Bjork fan was because I kind of liked the shock of telling people that me, Mississippi boy, country dude, liked such an odd choice, the most unredneck music choice you could think of. And so I didn't know if I was a true fan or not, so I decided the only way to find out was to complete her discography. So I bought the rest of her albums, all 9 of the other studio albums. She has a bunch of remix albums, live albums, box sets, and she even has one album that she released as a child, but I'm just talking about her 10 current discography, her 10 studio albums. So anyway, by the end of this, I'm going to determine if I'm a true fan, if I can go past the Greatest Hits and get into the album's deep cuts and songs that were not singles. So hopefully by the end of this, I know that and can give any advice to people who may want to jump in on the Bjork discography, because it is something else. So here we go. Number 10 is 2022's Thesaura. Listening to this was like being waterboarded. There is not a melody, a hook, anywhere on this album. It's just none. It is the most unstructured, forgettable thing I have ever listened to in my life. There's not one song that I can point to like, yeah, but this song is okay. There are none. None. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. It sounds like I am, but I'm not. It's the worst album I've ever heard. 2017's Utopia. It's her self-described flute album, and it has a lot of birdsong in it. It's so flippin' distracting. It's just, again, just like with Thesaura, I'm not going to revisit this. I haven't just listened to these things once. I've listened to these multiple times. I mean, over 2 weeks I've spent with Thesaura, Utopia, and the next one coming up, trying to get into it. Anyway, the only time I'll ever play Utopia again, if I'm trying to get information from somebody, I'll probably play this again, but that's it. Alright, coming in at 8 is Medulla. Medulla is a very interesting album. There is not many instruments in it at all. It's all done with voice sounds and literal beatboxing. I see a lot of people praising it solely on the fact that it was a risk and it was her being brave. There are some great songs on here. 2 in particular, Where Is the Line? And there's a song, Who Is It? That is exceptional. Even as good as they are tainted just a little bit because there's beatboxing in both of them. Especially Who Is It, which is my favorite track on the album. I really do like that. But then as you're getting into it, you realize there's a guy in the background just beatboxing like there's no tomorrow, and it just takes it completely away from me. So no points for being brave. Sorry. All right, number 7 is 2011's Biophilia. The release of this album sounds insane. An app was created that was launched beside it. Still available, I think. Lets you interact with the music, do different things with it, play games, and I think you could maybe rearrange some things. I'm not sure. I've never checked it out. Um, New musical instruments were created for this album, which makes sense. It is a very unique sounding album musically. I think it's really good. I think it's really strong. Uh, First half of the album, which happens a couple of times with her on this list, where the first half is really strong and it kind of meanders and monotonous toward the end or halfway through. Um, one a criticism I have seen in regards to this album is that some people feel like the rollout of this album and all the stuff that went along with it, the app, there was some art installations and live shows before the album was even released, I think, that maybe took away from the album. But I think it's strong. I think it's fine. It's it has grown on me as I've listened to it. All right, coming in at 6 is 2007's Volta. Um, it is an underrated album in my opinion. Um, it does not get very good reviews in the Bjork community. I don't think. I don't think critics liked it. Instead of having a producer or co-producer, it had several producers. It had a lot of collaborators. Mainly of which Timbaland did 3 of the songs. Happen to be 3 of my favorites. My 3 favorites on the album: Hope, Innocence, and the opener, Earth Intruder. Really strong. All those are really strong, very memorable, very you know. Hope is beautiful. Innocence is just a banger. Um, this album would be higher if it didn't use so much brass instrumentation. I'm not a jazz fan at all. I do not like jazz. I know jazz plays a part in a lot of Bjork's music, but here it's a little pushed out in front on a few tracks. I'm sorry. It is really distracting. There's songs, even Earth Intruders, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. At the end of it, this brass instrumentation comes in that literally sounds like a foghorn. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and it kind of through the album does that throughout, and it's it's just not for me. Uh, and also, it's a muddy sounding production on this album. I know it had many producers, but it's real muddy and it's very claustrophobic. That's the main thing I take away from it. So even when I listen to it, I'm enjoying it, but at the same time I'm a little unsettled. I don't know if it's that brass instruments that are doing it to me. I don't know if it's the muddy production, but I'm not happy when I'm listening to it. I can appreciate how good it is, and I will continue to revisit it because a lot of songs are really good on here, but man, I just wish it had a cleaner production. But, other than that, good record. Okay, number 5, 2015 Vulnicura. This album saved my life. I really do think that. Because for 2 weeks, I had spent with Fosora, Medulla, and Utopia, feeling beat down, and this album came in the mail, and I opened it up, not knowing what to think. because I try not to read ahead of any reviews or anything before I listen to them. It is flipping gorgeous. Her vocals have, it might be my favorite vocal performance of hers. This is later in her career. This is just, 10 years ago. Her voice, maybe a little bit more mature, I don't know, but it was perfect. Beautiful vocals, beautiful orchestral arrangements. Her voice belongs with an orchestra. It doesn't belong with brass instruments. It doesn't belong with beatboxing. It needs to be with the orchestra. As soon as the first song, Stone Milker, came on, it was just like I was cleansed. And I just soaked it up. Second song, Lion Song, is, I feel like I say this a lot, but it is it has become one of my favorite, and this may be recency bias, easy for me to say, but it is beautiful. It's haunting. I don't listen, honestly, don't pay much attention to lyrics. I know that's um, blasphemous, but I mean, my favorite band is Kiss. I mean, that tells you how much I care about lyrics. But I couldn't deny how beautiful this was. This song was great. Anyway, the whole album was like that. It is. I've never heard her voice so perfect. The amount of emotions that I got from it, I wanted to literally cry. Goosebumps popped up on my arm listening to this album, particularly that second song. It's great. Number 4 is Vespertine from 2001. This is a crisp, beautiful, light album. Like Volnicura, it has these great orchestral arrangements. And in fact, I think even though it's 14 years difference, release difference between the two albums, I think this could easily be a double album with Volnicura. I think it would have worked actually perfectly. Pagan Poetry is on that. Obviously, that's one of her best singles in my opinion. Oh, but this is terrific. All right, coming in number 3, Debut from 1993. This album has been number 1. It's been number 2. It's been back to number 1. But I'm settling now on number 3. It's just fun. Um, it's it's kind of more dance vibey than any of the other albums. Um, there's there's no other way to describe it than fun, and the song that kind of personifies this is, I'm going to read it because I can't remember the name. There's more to life than this, recorded live at the Milk Bar Toilets. This song is sounds like she's at a club. Crowd, is vibing in the background. The music's bumping, and about midway through the song, she walks out. I guess apparently to the toilets. Closes the door behind her. The crowd and the music gets muffled, and she just breaks out in this a cappella portion of the song for just a few seconds. Then she opens the door back up, and all that music and all that crowd noise kind of comes rushing back in, and then she goes back to singing the song. It's really good. I heard that, and I'm like, my gosh, I've not heard anything like this before. Which she has that effect on me. Again, human behavior. Venus as a boy, big time sensuality. But to me, there's one song on here, "One Day," which is just like this beautiful pop song. It's fantastic. The album is fantastic. I'm gonna keep going back to this all the time, and I love it. All right, number 2 is Post, the album that started it all. uh, the one that told me that I was a Bjork fan for 30 years. Um, and it is a great album. She once stated that Volta was going to be her pop album, but I really think it's this. It's radio friendly. It's easily, even more than debut, I think it's her most accessible album. I think um, I could give this to somebody who's never heard Bjork before, and I think they would dig it, and it wouldn't scare them off. um, it has, of course, Army of Me, possibly maybe. Uh, it's and it's Oh So Quiet, which is actually a remake of a 1951 song. Um, Kind of a jazz standard, but it's not. I mean, it does have horns in it, but it's not obnoxious horns. It's just nice, fun horns. um, it's her least avant-garde album to me. I think there's aspects of avant-garde in all of her stuff, but it's very light on that, except for the last couple of songs. But this is just a great album, and I think anybody would enjoy it. All right, number one, Homogenic, 1997. Not a bad song on this album, not one. It mixes electronic music with those great orchestral moments that I love. Uh, Starts out with Hunter, then it goes right into Joga or Yoga, don't really know how it's pronounced, which is just one of the greats. Unravel is a beautiful song. It's just the whole album is just emotionally charged. It just builds and builds and builds, and each song just has this emotional, I mean, it just soars at the end of it. I can't think of any other term other than a sweeping epic masterpiece. That's what this album is. Um, it ends with this great song, "All Is Full of Love," which is one of two versions of the song. There's this version, which is a stripped down version, and on the greatest hits, there's one that has more instrumentation behind it, and but they're both equally great. It's just, I mean, it's beautiful from beginning to end, and I love it. And I will. This is probably something that I'm going to listen to for the rest of my life, and enjoy it more and more every time I listen to it. I thought I was going to get into this, and I really, there for a minute, thought I was going to be a greatest hits Bjork fan. And that was kind of a bummer, because then I'd feel like 30 years of my life had been a lie. Um, she's fantastic. There are going to be times when I just listen to the greatest hits, but there's going to be other times I listen. There's 7 out of her 10 albums I'm going to listen to, and they're going to be in regular rotation. I think that's pretty good. And it's not just the singles, it's not just the hits, it's the deep cuts. I'm here to tell you, most of her stuff is beautiful, and I love it. And there's no artist, not one, that gives me an emotional response the way her music does. No other musician makes me audibly gasp or audibly say something as I'm listening to their music. And again, nobody else has that effect on me. If you are a Bjork noob and don't know much of her stuff, other than maybe a couple songs here or there, allow me to make this suggestion. Go buy the greatest hits. get the greatest hits, and if you like it and you love it, like I know you will, I hope you will, I would slowly get into her discography in this order. Go with Post because of the accessibility of it. Then I would go to Debut because of the sheer fun that album is. And then I'd go to Homogenic because of its beauty and masterpiece of an album. It's phenomenal. As you go up my list, or down the list, however you want to say it, then it gets a little bit more avant-garde and a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But you may be different. So I hope it helps. I hope you're entertained a little bit. If you're not a fan of hers or you don't know anything about her, I would love for you to try her out. I'm going to put some links below to the songs that I think are the best ones from the albums that aren't a single or a hit. Anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. All that good stuff really helps me out. I'd like to have a conversation about her. If you're a Bjork fan and you happen upon this video and you think I'm an idiot and I'm just a stupid redneck who has no right to even listen to her music, let me know. I'm cool with that. I don't have any feelings. You can't hurt them. So anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you're still with me. If you are, thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.